Something very surprising and important happened recently. Postal services in many countries across Europe made a big announcement. They would stop sending packages to the United States. This was a shocking piece of news, especially for millions of people and businesses who often send or receive items across the Atlantic Ocean. This sudden decision meant that mail, gifts, and goods could no longer travel easily from Europe to America. This halt quickly turned into a serious crisis. Millions of ordinary people found it impossible to mail gifts, important documents, or personal items to family and friends who lived far away. This caused a lot of worry and sadness for those wanting to connect with loved ones. At the same time, countless small businesses in Europe faced huge problems. Many of these businesses rely on selling unique products like handmade crafts, special foods, or clothes to customers in America. With no way to send their goods safely and legally, their sales stopped and their future became very uncertain. This situation marked the beginning of a major disruption in how packages travel between Europe and the US. For many years, sending things across the Atlantic was a simple, normal, and common process. Now, everything changed almost overnight. The regular flow of parcels, which connected families and supported small traders, was suddenly broken, affecting huge parts of the global mail system. The main reason for this stop was a new rule from the American government. This rule changed how packages entering the U.S. from other countries would be handled. European postal services found it very difficult to follow these new rules quickly. They had to choose: either try to send packages and risk breaking the new American law, or simply stop their services until they could understand and adapt. Many decided to stop, which created a big conflict. This conflict was between the established ways of sending mail from Europe and the new, strict requirements set by the American government. This book will explore this significant event and its wide-ranging effects on people and commerce. 2. A big problem for mail. A very big problem began for mail going from Europe to the United States. Many important postal services suddenly stopped sending packages. This started quickly, in late August. One of the first services to stop was Deutsche Post and DHL Parcel Germany. These companies usually send millions of packages. They announced they would not accept business parcels for America from August 22nd. This stopped a main way for small European shops to send goods to American buyers. Soon after, France's national postal service, La Poste, also announced a stop. This was on August 26th. They would not send any packages to the U.S. Only small personal gifts worth less than $100 were still allowed. Thousands of French businesses that sold their products to American customers were deeply affected by this new rule. The United Kingdom's Royal Mail also announced its suspension on August 27th. They hoped it would be a very short stop, perhaps just 1 or 2 days. But many people believed the problem could last much longer. New American rules about mail made it too difficult for them to continue. The problem quickly spread to other parts of Europe. Spain's Correos, Italy's Poste Italiane, and Austria's Austrian Post all stopped their services to the U.S. PostNord, a big service in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, also stopped mail. Belgium's bpost made similar limits. Because of all these changes, almost all of Western Europe could not send mail to the U.S. anymore. It was like a total stop for many kinds of packages. Many postal companies across the continent faced the same big challenges with the new rules. Post Europe, a group that helps many European postal services, said that all its 53 members might have to stop sending mail too. This widespread halt meant millions of packages could not cross the Atlantic, causing big problems for people and businesses trying to send things. 3. Why did this happen? For a long time, there was a special rule for packages sent to the United States. This rule was called de minimis. It meant that if a package was worth $800 or less, it could enter the country without extra taxes or fees. This rule helped many small businesses and people sending gifts across the ocean. It made buying things from other countries easier and cheaper for American customers, encouraging global trade. The de minimis rule had been in place for many years. It started small, but over time, the limit was raised. In 2016, under the Obama administration, it went from $200 to $800. This change helped many online shops grow. It became very easy for companies in Europe to send items like clothes, books, or handmade crafts to customers in America without complicated paperwork or extra costs. Billions of packages came into the U.S. each year using this rule, connecting buyers and sellers worldwide. Then, the U.S. government decided to change this important rule. President Donald Trump's administration made the decision to stop the de minimis exemption. This meant that even small packages, those worth less than $800, would now face new taxes and fees. The government announced this change in July 2025, and it was set to begin in August 2025. This was a big shift in how the U.S. handled international mail. There were two main reasons given for this big change. First, the U.S. government wanted to collect more money. By removing the de minimis rule, they could put tariffs, or taxes, on many more imported goods. This decision aimed to bring more revenue into the country from international trade. Second, the government said it needed to stop illegal things from entering the country. Officials in the Trump administration stated that the de minimis rule was like a loophole. They said it made it too easy for illegal drugs, especially fentanyl, to get into the United States quickly and without enough checks. A senior administration official explained that closing this loophole would help keep American communities safe from dangerous products. They also argued that it would protect American workers and businesses from what they called unfair competition. The idea was that foreign companies had an unfair advantage by avoiding import duties that American businesses had to pay. So, the change was made with goals to collect more money, fight illegal drugs, and protect American businesses. However, this decision had huge and immediate effects on how mail could travel between Europe and the US. It completely changed the rules of the game for international shipping. 4. Europe's difficult choice. European postal companies faced a very difficult choice. They were frustrated because the new American rules came with almost no warning. Companies like La Poste in France said clearly that the U.S. government did not give them enough time. It was impossible to change their operations so quickly. They needed time to update their computer systems, which were old and not built for these new rules. They also needed to train their workers on how to handle the new taxes and paperwork. The changes were huge. Before, packages worth less than $800 could go to the U.S. easily without extra taxes. Now, every single package needed a full customs declaration and new fees. This meant that postal services needed complex new computer programs to calculate these fees. They also had to find ways to collect the money from customers and send all the new information to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. DHL Group, a major logistics company, stated that many important questions were still unanswered. They didn't know exactly how the duties would be collected, what extra information was required, or how to send it all to the American authorities. These were not small adjustments. Postal companies, which normally just delivered mail, were suddenly asked to act like tax collectors for another country. This meant rebuilding large parts of their IT systems. They also needed to create new legal agreements and change their business models. Such big changes could not happen in a few weeks. It required many months, perhaps even years, to plan and implement properly. The short notice given by the Trump administration made this impossible. Because of these massive technical and legal problems, European postal services believed they had only one safe option. They had to stop all regular package shipments to the U.S. If they tried to send packages without fully following the new rules, they could face huge fines. There was a risk of legal action from the U.S. government, and they could even be held responsible for unpaid taxes. To protect themselves from these serious problems, they made the hard decision to pause their services. It was a choice made to avoid breaking the new American law and to prevent future difficulties, even if it meant disrupting many people and businesses. 5. The cost for people and shops. The new rules mean that sending packages from Europe to the United States now costs a lot more money. Before, small packages worth less than $800 could enter America without extra taxes. This old rule helped many small shops and people. But now it is gone, following a decision by the U.S. administration to change trade policy. Packages sent from European Union countries to America will have a new tax called a tariff. This tariff is usually 15% of the item's value. On top of this, there are big extra fees. For countries with a tariff rate of 15% or less, there is an added charge of $80 for each package. If the tariff rate is higher, the extra fee can be $160 or even $200 for some items. These fees are fixed, meaning they do not change much if the item is cheap or expensive. This makes even very low-cost items suddenly unaffordable. Imagine a small item, like a €50 handmade ceramic from Germany. Its tariff would be about €7.50, but then an $80 fee is added. This makes the total cost for the buyer much, much higher, sometimes more than double the original price of the item. A $20 book from France could also have this same $80 fee. So what was once a small, affordable purchase now costs a fortune. This effectively stops many smaller purchases from happening. This change is very bad for small European businesses. Many of these shops sell unique items like special foods, crafts, or vintage clothes to American customers. They used to send these items easily and cheaply through the mail. Now, these businesses cannot offer affordable shipping anymore. The high tariffs and fees mean that American customers will not buy their products as often. This loss of sales threatens the future of these small companies, some of which relied heavily on their American buyers. Many may have to close or stop selling overseas. American customers also feel this impact deeply. They can no longer buy their favorite European products easily or cheaply. Special items that made their lives richer are now too expensive or impossible to get. This affects people who want to send gifts or care packages to family and friends across the ocean. What once a simple way to stay connected has become a big problem, isolating communities and making simple gestures of care very difficult. For many, a link to their heritage or cultural interests is now broken. The new rules make cross-ocean shopping and gift-giving a heavy cost for everyone, both financially and emotionally. 6. Finding new ways to send things. After the mail stopped, people and businesses needed new ways to send packages to America. It was a big problem, but they had to find solutions. One option was to use private courier services. Companies like DHL Express, FedEx, and UPS were still sending packages. They did not stop their services like the national postal companies. However, using these private couriers was much, much more expensive. For example, a small package that once cost 15 to 25 euros to send might now cost 50 to 100 euros with a private service. This made many items too costly for customers to buy from Europe. Small businesses in Europe had to think hard about how to keep selling to American customers. Some tried to group many small packages together. This is called consolidation. They would collect many items, put them in one big shipment, and then send that big shipment to America. Once it arrived in the U.S., the items would be sent out to individual customers. This method helped to spread the high costs of shipping over many packages. But it also meant longer waiting times for customers, as packages had to wait until there were enough others to make a big shipment. Other businesses thought about different plans. Some considered setting up warehouses in the United States. They would send their products in large amounts to these warehouses. Then, from the warehouse in America, they would use American shipping services to deliver to customers. This could help avoid some new tariffs and fees. However, this way needed a lot of money to start. Only bigger businesses with many sales could do this. It was not a choice for small craft sellers or family shops. Digital shopping websites also looked for solutions. Some thought about working with American storage centers. This would let European sellers keep their goods in the U.S. Then they would not need to send packages internationally for each sale. But this changed how businesses worked and might affect taxes. All these new ways of sending things had problems. They were usually much more expensive than the old postal service. They were also more complex and often took longer. Many people and small businesses found it very difficult to adapt. The simple act of sending a package across the ocean became a challenge with higher prices and more rules. It was a big change from how things used to be. 7. A bigger global issue. The problem with mail stopping was not just for the United States and Europe. It affected many other parts of the world. Global supply chains felt the impact. These are the long paths products take from where they are made to where they are sold. For example, some companies in Asia sent their goods to Europe first. From Europe, these goods would then go to America. But with the mail stop, these important routes were broken. It became much harder for these products to reach American customers. This showed how interconnected the world's trade truly is. The issue also caused tension between governments. The United States and its European allies usually work closely. However, Europe felt that the U.S. made this big change too quickly. They said there was not enough time to prepare for the new rules. European leaders, like those in Germany and France, expressed their worry. They felt that the U.S. was not cooperating as before. This made political relations harder. It showed a shift in how countries interact on trade matters. This situation was part of a bigger trend. Across the world, some countries were starting to cooperate less on trade. They began to focus more on their own country's needs. This was happening more often. President Donald Trump's administration made this new rule. Their stated goal was to help American businesses and collect more taxes. They also said it would help stop illegal drugs like fentanyl from entering the country. But this action also made international trade less smooth. It showed that rules which seemed solid could change fast. The global system for sending goods, which had been stable for a long time, was now under pressure. It highlighted how fragile global connections can be. This event was a sign that the world of trade was changing. Countries were putting their own interests first, even if it affected their allies. This created a more complex and uncertain future for global business. 8. The end of the story? The mail crisis between Europe and the United States was a very big problem. It showed how important small packages are for many people and businesses. The decision by President Donald Trump's government to change the de minimis rule stopped a lot of mail. This affected millions of people who sent or received items across the ocean. Small shops lost customers, and families found it hard to send gifts and other personal items.
The effects were felt not only in Europe and the US, but also in global supply chains, as many countries rely on these shipping routes. This situation also caused tension between the US and its European allies. This change marked a very important moment in international shipping. For many decades, sending small packages between Europe and America was simple and cheap. The old rule helped many small businesses sell their unique products across the Atlantic. It also made it easy for people to connect with friends and family. But the new rule made everything much harder and more expensive. It showed how quickly international trade rules can change and cause big problems for ordinary people and small companies. It highlighted that global connections are not always stable. Now people wonder what will happen next. Will mail services return to how they were before? It is hard to say for sure. Some solutions, like using private courier companies, are very costly and not good for small items.
It might take a long time, perhaps many months or even years, for things to get better. Many businesses are trying to find new ways to send products, but these ways are often more complex and expensive. The old way of easy, cheap shipping might be gone forever, replaced by new, more complicated systems. This whole situation showed how delicate global trade is. The easy ways we connect across countries, like sending packages, can break very easily. One government's decision can affect many other nations, their businesses, and their people. It reminds us that smooth international connections are not always guaranteed and depend on agreements between countries. This event was a strong example of how global trade and daily life are connected to political choices. What do you believe will happen to international mail services between Europe and the US in the future? Do you think they will go back to normal, or will this change be permanent?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.